When I started out on my weight loss and health and fitness journey, the question came to mind, how can I make it different this time? How can I make this sustainable? So here I sat today at day 150 on my weight loss and health and fitness journey. Have I made changes along the way? I've made a lot of changes. Changes that are designed to be lifelong health and fitness changes, not just something to help me lose weight. Not a fad diet, not a diet that's so hard to maintain that the likelihood of success is not going to be there long term. No, I've made routine changes and things that can help me to be successful long term. Now, one of the things that I started doing that I did not do previously was I really started eating a breakfast. And when I say eating a breakfast, it's been more of utilization of a shake. Now, here's a couple of examples of things that I do eat for breakfast. I mixed this here shake. This is by Garden of Life. It's just grass-fed whey. And I mixed that with Fairlife fat-free milk. I actually started my journey utilizing whole milk, but by the time I've gotten through this and as the more weight that I've lost, I've had to continue to cut my calories, so I have gone down to the fat-free because honestly it just reduced the number of calories that I take. Now, another option, and the one that I have been one of my preferred go-tos throughout this whole entire process, and I've also replaced the lunch periodically with this one as well, and this is from Kaged Nutrition. And I've taken a couple of different varieties of this, but this has probably been my most favorite, as this one here is the chocolate peanut butter, and I can just kind of mix it up with the Fairlife and milk as well. And it's just a one of those shakes that really keeps me full for a very longer period of time. So if those things are something you're looking at, you might want to check these out. Even got a couple links down in the description where you can just click and go to them over on Amazon. But those have been very beneficial to me throughout my journey. Now, I also have been working out, and whenever I do my workout, there is a post-workout that I've actually used, and that one is another protein powder. And this is a little bit different, but it's called Re-Kaged. It's by Kaged Nutrition. Neat thing about it is the flavors are a little bit different. This one here is a lemon cake, but they've got fruit punch and just different things like that. So something that's a little bit of a variety from your normal chocolate and vanilla type protein powders. But beyond adding those things for breakfast, I've made other changes to my diet. It includes more things like eating salmon and eating more fresh vegetables and eating some more fruit and things like that as well. Having that balance. Now, when I say balance, one thing that I have done, and I got this from a nutritionist, and that is to try to balance out my net carbs and my protein. Now, I do have a typical daily goal of about 100 grams of protein. Now, that's on the lower side of the scale. I sometimes will get the 130s, the 140s on my proteins, and I don't necessarily increase my carbs past that point, but whenever I say the net carbs, that is my carbs minus my fiber. So if I had 115 grams of protein, I try to have my net carbs around 115 grams. That balance seems to keep me satisfied throughout the day, seems to keep my energy level going fine. So that's one of the big things that's been a big change. Now, beyond that, the diet changes are huge, but there's almost a step you have to have even before you get to that. But it also is a step that extends well beyond that, and that is the mindset. You have to have the right mindset going into this, knowing that there might be a time that I feel a little bit on the hungry side, and maybe that's not a hunger for food. Maybe it's just something to drink. I don't have a bottle of it now, but there's something that I normally would drink. If I started feeling a little bit of hunger, it's just like a hydration drink. Mine was Hydra by Kaged Nutrition. I just happened to run out recently, but I started getting a little bit of hunger. I might just take a drink of that and mix me up a quick glass. It was like 5 calories, so it wasn't much. But that would almost 95% of the time take care of my hunger, and I was no longer hungry. So that has helped me to not want to snack on something. Also, the other side is going back to the balance in the food. By having that balance, also it eliminates that desire for the sweets and stuff. Because when I say mindset, I used to have a craving for these candies, and I don't know why I would eat them, but the more sugar that I ate, the more that I wanted to eat. And the last time I have had candy goes back to my first week of starting this journey. So just a few days after October the 29th, I had a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Not had any candy since. And I've really been able to make a lot of different changes. Even when I go to a restaurant, I take a look at the menu and automatically try to eliminate some of the higher calorie type options. Now, On the flip side of that, one thing that I've done recently is just went to dinner the other night at a Mexican restaurant with my wife. Now, what did I do with that meal? I divide that meal into 3 components right before I ever get started, so that I know that I'm going to eat about 1/3 of that meal. I bring the other 2 home and I eat it over 2 or 3 different settings. So sometimes I may just want a light lunch, so I've got a couple options there. So I can eat that a couple of different times. So sometimes it's even one meal is even turned into 3 or even 4 different meals. And that kind of is telling to me as well, because when I go out to a restaurant, the times that I would normally in the past sit down and eat every bit of it, how much calories and how many calories was that? How much over my daily intake was I actually getting on a day-to-day basis if I was eating in a restaurant a couple of days during my work travels? Because I realized today I don't need that much extra food. I don't need that much to keep me going. So knowing that ahead of time and having the right mindset to make sure that I can keep the diet on track, and also having the right mindset to make sure that I can walk away from those extra desserts and some of those appetizers. Those things are vital as well, because those are just added calories into something that I really don't need. And have you ever gone to a restaurant and you order an appetizer, and what happens? You get the appetizer, and by the time your meal comes, you're really kind of already full. But you don't want to let your money go to waste. So what do? You eat the meal anyway. And that's some of the things that I did in the past. Now I try not to order the appetizer, and I definitely don't order the dessert. So those are the other changes. Now, when it comes to mindset, the mindset also is about the changes in the activities you have to have. The other thing, those things that are going to help you to be successful for the long term after the goals are reached. And for me, that includes having exercise as part of the routine. Lately, the last 2-3 weeks to month, I honestly haven't been as active with my exercise as I would like to be or have been in the past. My work schedule has picked up. So where I was doing a lot of weights and also doing the walking, I've had a couple of weeks where mainly my exercise has been walking, but I have continued to stay active and still walking, 4 to 5 days most weeks, except for today. If you can see the weather outside or hear the weather, pretty stormy out. So not really been a walking day for me today. And I have seen, for me at least anyway, that the exercise is a vital component. What's that percentage of gains? I can't really say when it comes to the weight loss side. I do know that whenever I'm doing it full-fledged, that the calories per week was averaging pretty solid 400 to 500 calorie deficit. A lot of times whenever it was in full swing when I was walking and doing the weights. And I definitely do plan to get back to that. One of the things that's been a deterrent is one of my adjustable weights. It broke and a couple of the weights fell out, so I don't exactly feel too comfortable taking that weight and putting it back together, or the other weight now at this point, and lifting those up over my head too far. So I really don't want a piece of cast iron falling on top of my head. Not really too high on my list of things to do. Now, the big thing that has been very helpful to help me from the beginning to have success was Mounjaro, because that helped me to break the habits. Now, I've been on the Mounjaro since October 29th. I started with a 2.5 milligram dose. I did that for 30 days. Beyond that, I have had Mounjaro in the 5 milligram dose. Recently I've taken 2 7.5 milligram doses, and then after that I'm going back now to the 5 milligram to hopefully finish up the rest of my weight loss journey. Now, during 2023, it's been a little bit different for me when it comes to Mounjaro, because I've actually skipped numerous weeks during 2023. For example, over the last 5 weeks, I've actually skipped 4 doses. And then prior to that, back in January, I skipped 2 doses. So there has been times that I have skipped the Mounjaro, and in part that is because I wanted to know about my ability to maintain this program after the Mounjaro was gone. I wanted to know that it was me doing it and not the Mounjaro. And one thing that I have learned, even taking the Mounjaro, which made me to have better choices, I have still had the ability, because unlike some people, I have not had all of my hunger taken away, and it's not like I cannot eat. So I've still had the ability to be able to eat beyond what my recommended calorie intake would be in my Lose It app. And speaking of my Lose It app, that has been a big key to my success along the way as well. I use that app to keep track of my food, to track my success along the way, and that has really kept me on track. Now, up until the past week and a half, I have not had a single day that I had gone over what my calories, according to the app, should have been for the day. I've always had it in a deficit on a day-to-day basis. Now, one of the reasons here recently I did it was because I was traveling and flying, and I had intended to do some workouts, and honestly just was not able to get them in. And by the time I got to where I was going, it was pretty late. So on those couple of days, and when I say over, I'm not talking massively over, but the fact is I had prided myself along the way of making sure I stayed under that and never had a day over. So it was almost discouraging in a lot of ways that I did have a couple of days that were over. I'm on a mission to try to get back where I make sure that doesn't happen anymore. My calories have gotten to the point they're pretty low, that according to the app, they're about sub 1,500 now per day. Typically, all along this journey, I have done somewhere between 1,600 and 1,800. And as long as I am physically active, there's not really been much issue with any of that, and I continue to lose at a pretty good clip. Now, a couple of things is the last month, I told you I had not worked out as much, had not had the same weight training and stuff as I'd had previously, and haven't been able to actually walk as much, and then even a couple of days that the diet there was over. So I didn't lose as much in the past 30 days as I had the previous 30 days. And you'll be able to see that here later whenever I put up the picture that shows a month-by-month depiction of my journey and shows pictures of progress along the way. So I'll put that up here in just a minute. But exercise, as I mentioned, was a big step. So the things that I have seen so far is the diet changes, having the right mindset, having the exercise, having the Mounjaro. Those were big components that helped me to be successful on this journey. And I think that if you start out on your own path, you'll find the things that make you successful. And I know several people that their doctor, they tell them to move, but move as far as being more active. But at the same time, some people have abilities right now that are limited by maybe they need a knee replacement, or maybe they need a hip replacement. There's exceptions to those rules, and the great thing is people that I know that are like that are still having great weight loss success. So even if you feel like right now that you aren't capable to go out and exercise, you still can have weight loss success. Just know that it takes a mindset, it takes diet changes. One thing that I've heard people say is when it comes to the diet changes, and the concern about not being on Mounjaro is whether they can maintain it. And some people say that, well, they're not sure that they can because of the fact that the hunger will come back. Well, one thing that I would say to keep in mind is if you've made the diet changes, make those diet snacks. The snacks that you have, maybe you have some fresh vegetables or something on hand, or something that's more of a low-calorie snack that's going to be a higher volume that can help to fill you up. Or if you've got a lower calorie protein shake, something like what this is here, this here Garden of Life, which is only 100, and you can see on the back, is only 120 calories. You can mix that with water. So if you get those kind of cravings, and the protein can help you to feel full longer. So it's not going to be something that's going to be impossible to get some calories in, to get some protein in, and really overdo it. So maybe keep something like that in mind and have something ready to go. There's something else that I bought recently, and it's becoming a new go-to for me a little bit when I'm on the road, because it's these here, I guess they're by Barbells, and it's these little bars. And I tell you, as far as the protein bar goes, I told my wife, I said, man, those are almost too good. They almost taste like a candy bar. And I thought, well, isn't that a good thing? I guess she's actually right, because I'm more likely to eat it if it tastes good. But now when it comes to my weight, I mentioned earlier how I started at 290 pounds. And as I go through it, I'm going to put this chart up. And this chart is a depiction of my weight loss throughout the stages. What you'll see at day 1 was 290 pounds. At day 30, I was 274.6. Now, there was a few challenges in that time frame too, because I did have COVID. I did kind of laid in bed for almost a week and a half. Now, and also during that stretch, I did not lose much weight when it came to that time frame with COVID. So it wasn't like a major weight loss jump start with me having COVID, because I didn't eat much. I found somehow a way to continue to eat during that stretch. And then at day 60, I was at 259.2 pounds. Day 90, I was at 245.8. And then at day 120, it was 232.4, to where my more recent weigh-in at day 150 was 225.4. Now, in addition to that, during this time frame, I did not measure from day one when it comes to my waist, but I started measuring about the middle of January. At that point, my waist was about 46.5, and I've just measured here recently, and my current waist is 42.5. So in that time frame, I've lost basically 4 inches off my waist. And if you start looking at the pictures, and even in the last 60 days, you can see the difference. And it's been something that is kind of becoming my new go-to. I told my wife, I said, I don't know where I need to be, but being the fact that I'm 6 foot and reading some information, even through my health apps, through my job, that they have about what your targeted waist size should be, and it kind of says that about half of what the height is. So that's basically 36 inches for me, and they want me to be at least below 37. So that has become my target. I'm almost shifting my target from a weight number, even though I use the weight number as a measure of success along this journey. I'm moving much of my measurements to the waist circumference now going forward as a target to get to that sub 37, closer to 36 is my final goal on my waist size. So basically, if I'm looking at a 36 goal, I am still about 6.5 inches away from where I want to be when it comes to my waist. So I got a ways to go. Now I do, when it comes to Mounjaro, I do have a couple boxes left in the fridge, and those will actually be my last 2 boxes, because after this they go to $1,000 a box, and cannot afford to continue that. So I will not be continuing beyond that. But at that point, within another 2 months plus 1 injection, so I've got a total of nine injections. So I got 9 weeks that I can go for sure, unless I stretch those out. And since I've gone weeks without Mounjaro, I'm comfortable going every 2 weeks with it, or maybe even every 3 weeks if I need to in that last month or so. Just so to give you an idea, I would recommend, if you're looking to have success and you feel like you can't have that success, you can't make those changes, I would recommend that you do talk to your doctor, because that's where my conversation started. And I didn't even know about Mounjaro, and actually whenever I got on Mounjaro, it was, my doctor's like, hey, there's this product called Wegovy. I've heard that people had good success and really kickstarting their diet. You want to give it a shot? And then I said, yeah, sure, why not? She goes, let me do the blood work. So she did the blood work, and then she set me an appointment to follow back up after the blood work came in, send over that script. And next thing you know, I go to CVS and like, hey, sorry, Wegovy's not available, but we got you Mounjaro. It's a similar type product. Just giving it to you as a replacement for the Wegovy. And that's how I got on the Mounjaro, and the rest of that part of this history. But at the end of the day, it's been a vital component to my success, especially in the early phases. And I told you I did the test here just recently over the last five weeks when I went to four weekends without it. But it gives me confidence going forward that I can have sustainability after Mounjaro.